Hello, Greenlight Today family. It is so good to be back. As promised, I'm going to finish talking about the Velveteen rabbit and how real is a process and some of the really important points of being real. So I hope you've been enjoying this, and if you get a chance, reread the Velveteen rabbit. I'm starting off at the point where he talks about he's in the toy chest, right, or toy cupboard, as I guess they called it back in the day. And he realizes that real is really important, right? And he wants to get some more advice on this real, right? So he's standing there, or he's sitting there on the shelf, and he's looking to his left, and there are all the shiny new toys, and toys that can do amazing things. And on his right is this old skinned horse. So who does he ask for advice? He asked the skinned horse. Why? Well, he looked at the skinned horse, and the skinned horse looked happy and content. He was beat up, but he just had this nature of acceptance and wonder. Now, he looked at the new toys that were the wind-up toys. So think about all the new toys that your kids get with technology as compared to 20 years ago, right? So he's looking at all these new toys, and he says to himself, now think about these new toys. They always have to be wound up. And when they run out of energy, they have to be wound up again. They unwind, wind, unwind, wind. And he felt they couldn't give me advice on what real is. And I thought, wow, how appropriate for today. I mean, if what we use to make us real is something that we constantly have to wind up, something we constantly have to perfect, constantly something we have to attain to, day in and day out, whoa, we're going to get burned out. We are going to question the value of our lives. And so in this situation too, the Velveteen rabbit, he turns to the skin horse and he says, you become real. And I think about our lives today when we think about which is more important, reinventing ourselves constantly over and over again to meet some imagined line, or simply just discovering who we are and letting the authentic just come out. I like the part where she talks about there are areas of our lives where we can extend our authentic self, our real self, especially with close relationships, whether it be with family or friends. There's not a better way to be authentic with someone that you're friends with and that you can trust and talk to. And then hopefully those people bring out the best or support you in your wanting to embrace your real self. I'm not originally from this area, so when I moved here, and I struggled with that because I had people that I did things with, but I felt lonely and I couldn't understand what it was. And one of the things that I had to do was sit down was, okay, what really is this feeling? I really have to name this feeling. It's not just lonely. What is it? And what I found out is that though I have met tons of people, I hadn't formed authentic relationships. I hadn't had those connections built. And once I realized that, I started seeking out people in which I could have authentic relationships. Another one that I like that she says is being creative. And I love that being creative is more than being artistic. Being creative is making space in your life for your children. Being creative is inviting someone over for dinner. Being creative is finding a way to be just by yourself. There are many, many, many ways of creativity. And then also teaching, nurturing, and caring for others, as well as ourselves. All this worldly wisdom and wildness that you have is something that can be shared. It is of value. Your authenticity is amazing. And to not want to discover it and to not want to share it would be sad. And I love the example that she gives with the Velveteen rabbit, that he was on a journey of discovering real. And there were two things that immediately come out in the story. One of the first things that he talks about is that real is empathy. Real is allowing for yourself to change. Real is the empathy that perhaps you did not have the best start. Empathy that you are in a world that does not value individuality. And the second part of that, so having empathy, the second part of being real is being courageous. Do you. I love that phrase. Do you. And I think about this next part of the story. We're getting towards the end, and the little boy got sick. And back in the day when children got sick, they kind of got rid of all their toys, all their blankets, everything that could have made them sick, because they didn't know what it particularly was. And so it says that night, and for many, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I'm going to read this before I get to the other part. So this part is about what happens once the Velveteen rabbit becomes real and becomes courageous about being authentic and real. It says that night, and for many nights after, the Velveteen rabbit slept in the boy's bed. At first he found it rather uncomfortable, for the boy hugged him very tight, and he sometimes pushed him so far under the pillow that the rabbit could scarcely breathe. But very soon he grew to like it, for the boy used to talk to him and made nice tunnels for him under the bedclothes, and that's what he said were the burrows where real rabbits lived in. So the Velveteen rabbit becomes real, and it's uncomfortable. He is getting loved. He is seeing new territory. He's come out of that closet, that cupboard closet, and he's in a bed with a real boy. And he does not know how to handle it. It takes him a while. But eventually the Velveteen rabbit gets real, allows the realness to take place, and he grew to like it. He goes from a moment of being scarcely able to breathe, so much change, so much overwhelming, so much love, so much knowledge. And then he grew to like it. And one of the things that this book also talked about is that the Velveteen rabbit was very specific in how he felt, what made him feel that way. I think today when we talk about emotions, we could say something like, it makes me uncomfortable, or I feel uncomfortable. But what are you really saying? Because when you have emotions, it is so important to name them, because naming gives you the power and not the emotion. So when I think about someone says, I'm really uncomfortable, or this makes me feel uncomfortable, I always ask, well, what about that makes you feel uncomfortable? It makes me sad. It makes me anxious. Those are the real feelings. Sometimes we get so used to using one word to describe everything in our lives. And so I appreciate the story of the Velveteen rabbit and how he talked about the changes and what each change, how it happened to him and how it made it feel before he grew to like it. All right, so I kind of spoiled the storyline for the next the next Greenlight Your Day. What happens once you do become real? Is it forever after? Anyway, I'll leave you with that thought, and please Greenlight your day and have a wonderful time becoming real.